The following Patreon episode is brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. Here to tell you why it's important to become a patron is our favorite guest, Cam Mallow. Cam, why should they become a patron?
It's important to help bring more new episodes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, Cam. So if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/addressinggettysburg and become one today. We thank you in advance.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Patreon episode of Addressing Gettysburg. And you know how we like to have authors on whenever we can. And we've always done books that are history books. They're grounded in fact and reality. They're for your edumacation. But today we have one that's kind of a little bit of both. You can learn from it, but it is considered historical fiction. And it's new. It just came out for the benefit of our first lieutenants watching it on the video here. It's called Brothers of War, the Iron Brigade at Gettysburg. And it is. I've read a bit of it so far, and it's very good. And I'm not one to read fiction, so for me to say that is, well, that's rare. That's rare, and not that it matters what I say, because who the hell am I? But for me, it is a good book. We have the author Michael Eisenhut here with us today. How you doing, Michael?
Hello, very good.
Mike, I can call you Mike, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Because
I've
been calling you that all week.
Me. I appreciate
You're welcome.
having me on the show.
Absolutely. So let's get started here with this book here. What was your inspiration to write this book, and why as a fiction?
Well, I've always loved the Civil War, reading about it, studying it, and came to Gettysburg for years and years. But I think what for this book, for the Iron Brigade, was I guess maybe 9 or 10 years ago, seeing a grave up in the cemetery that had my grandma's maiden name on it, the last name Whitlow.
Ooh, shit.
And after lots of Googling, research, I learned everything I could about the 19th Indiana and the Iron Brigade. And there weren't a whole lot of details about this specific soldier, this dead guy up in the National Cemetery. So I thought that'd be a great book.
Right.
I want to know his story. When I saw his grave, I want to know his story. And I spent the next couple of weeks on Ancestry.com researching him and to see if he was related. He is. He has a brother in the regiment also. And the two brothers, they have a third brother too, but he's fighting with the 3rd Indiana Cavalry somewhere else. And I began writing a story. And first it was going to be nonfiction, but it wasn't something that would really grab the reader, I didn't think. You know, it was... Was
there not a lot of information on these guys?
Yeah, there was information a lot about the regiment, of course, the 19th Indiana. There's several great books out there, and there's even more on the Iron Brigade. But these particular soldiers, no. There was very little, So like
no family letters or diaries or anything like that?
Right, nothing like that. I mean, it'll be my luck, a diary comes out, after someone reads this book from
it's like, I
Oregon
have his diary in my attic.
But right now, no.
Okay.
So, I pulled service records and all that stuff, everything I could do in the archives, and all I could get was the day he died, and even the date of his death was all over the board.
Right. Didn't you say it was there's 4 different dates of death or something like that?
Yeah, there's July 1st, which we know he was mortally wounded July 1st.
Okay.
And, there's July 3rd, there's July 5th, there's July 12th. And
what are they saying that it has happened on all those different days?
Well, I think most of the soldiers from the Iron Brigade that were killed out in Herbst Woods, McPherson's Woods, Reynolds Woods, whatever you want to call it out there, out by Willoughby Run, I don't think they knew they were dead until the Union Army comes out on July 5th.
Okay.
So the date of death for most of those guys says July 5th.
Got it.
Yes, and there's...
So they could have died outright on the 1st, or they could have lingered for a few days and then died there on the 4th or something like that.
Right.
They just got to him too late.
Right. I don't want to give too much away, but one of my characters comes across a badly wounded Pennsylvania soldier from the 151st Pennsylvania, and he was wounded on the 1st. He's crawling to the rear, and his date of death even varies a little bit, whether it's July 1st or July 3rd. And you'd have to check the,
So What are the names of the characters who are real in this book, or the main?
No, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So it's historical fiction. I'll say this: all the officers, they're real people.
Right.
I researched the hell out of this thing. Colonel Williams, Samuel Williams, Lieutenant Schlegel. These are 19th Indiana guys. Sergeant Major Asa Blanchard. Abe Buckles, he was just a private or corporal, depending on which record you look at. Burlington Cunningham. These are all real people. Of course, General Doubleday or General Reynolds, Wadsworth. These guys, they're all real people. Now, the squad of guys, the main characters in the book, some of those are real, and I added a couple that aren't real.
Okay.
Let's just say you have a really bad, let's say a corporal. Let's just say you have a really bad corporal, and you're going to make this guy look bad in your book.
Right.
Well, you don't want to do that about a real person.
Correct.
I think you kind of want to be careful about that. So, I didn't want to take too much liberty with that, with using a real person and then changing what he said to make him look bad.
Yeah.
But I will say this: the brothers are real, of course.
And their names, they're Saul and James.
Yeah.
Or?
So it's Solomon and James are the
Okay.
two names of the two brothers, and they have another brother, John, who's an older brother fighting with the 3rd Indiana Cav. And you have other guys in the squad, or even the squad next to them, within the Company B of the 19th Indiana, Greer Williams and William Williams. It's his cousin. Those are real people. You may know, but a lot of the 19th Indiana guys from Company B were captured. All those names that my squad interacts with, those are real people. I didn't just go willy-nilly making up guys all over the place, because that.
So you actually went through and picked out names of real.
Yeah, right, and told their story through the eyes of my squad.
What introduce us to the characters in your squad? Tell us about them, names and who they are, what they're like.
Right. So you have James Whitlow. He's about 21. You have his younger brother Solomon, who's with him too. You have Billy Williams, who just joins the regiment around the Fredericksburg time, about 6 months before Gettysburg or so, and his cousin Greer. And another guy in the squad is a guy named Elijah Hawkins. He's
Is that the one they call Hawk?
They do call him Hawk. When he signs up, he's Elijah.
Okay.
And but quickly, he's kind of a rough guy, kind of a ruffian.
It's a little bit of a rascal. Sounds like.
Yes, a little bit of a tormentor. Brave as hell. At the Battle of South Mountain, he, as they're going up the National Road, and 19th Indiana's put in a battle line to the left, they get behind boulders in the dark, and they're trying to attack a line of Georgians up behind a rock wall, and there's boulders that's steep. I don't know if you've been out there. I was actually out there today, strangely enough, at South Mountain in Antietam. But Hawk disappears in the dark to the left. And they look up, and there he is up the hill. They see his silhouette on a rock yelling, "Come on, come on, come on." So James goes, and then Solomon goes, and pretty soon the whole squad and then the whole company goes. And eventually the Company B is able to dislodge some of the guys some of the Georgians up on South Mountain.
Okay.
And of course, you may know that's where the Iron Brigade got its name. Yeah. So back to the squad. I mentioned most of those guys, and there's a sergeant named Sergeant Bowler. He's in there too. He's kind of tough on the guys. They get to where they don't like him very much pretty quick.
Who's your favorite character and why? Which one was your favorite to write?
Favorite to write would be, there were a couple. Lieutenant Schlegel. I love his character, his personality, and I don't want to say what happens to him here, but he was fun to write. Hawk was incredibly fun to write. I love some of the things he did, and not just because he was. We had one character too I didn't mention named Henry. Henry was a Quaker from Richmond, Indiana. Had been friends with Solomon and James and John before the war, and he talks Solomon into enlisting, and then Solomon talks his brother into enlisting too, James. And before Henry has all these ideas when he signs up for the war, what it's about and why he wants to fight, and by the time the battle started, like Bronner's Farm and Second Manassas, there's so much carnage. He's just devastated by it. He's like, he wants out. He's thinking about desertion. I kind of just allude to that a little bit. I'm not going to say whether he deserts or he dies or lives here because I don't want to ruin the book for you.
Yeah, because
Henry struggles. Henry struggles.
Yeah.
And as he's coming over East McPherson Ridge at Gettysburg, he's shaking. He's scared. They're shoving him in the back. Keep going, Henry. Keep going. He's looking off to the east towards town. Like, I want out of here.
There's So as they're heading, I guess it would be past the Bliss Farm or in that area there after they cut off the Emmetsburg Road. You describe him kind of his eyes darting left and right and everywhere, but in front of him, trying to find a way to like maybe duck away to or something like that or something. I forgot how you worded it, but something like, anywhere else to go or something else to do or something like anywhere but here.
He's looking for a way out.
Yeah.
And the guys, I think he has Hawk in the line behind him. They're in a column still running across the field, and Hawk's yelling, "Keep going, Henry!" And Solomon grabs his arm and, "Come on, you're fine." He's having trouble breathing. He's freaking out basically.
Yeah, there's let's see here at the top of page 150. Let's see here. Okay, so more puffs of smoke came from the gray line ahead. Bullets screamed past. Steady. Henry fought for breath against swelling fear. "I don't know," he said with a screech, unable to finish his sentence. He was so scared his legs felt like they would buckle. "Keep going, Henry," Hawk shouted, seeing Henry waver. Solomon noticed too. Leaning in and grabbing Henry's sleeve, he yelled, "You're doing fine, Henry. We got him out in the open." Henry wanted to turn and run, but feeling the men on each side of him, he knew he had no choice. He couldn't feel his legs and felt he'd lost control of his body, but somehow he still ran. Everybody can relate to that.
Right.
Because we've all been in a situation, not this per se, but we've all been in a situation where we're terrified.
Right.
You think back when you're a little kid and like you're the new kid in school or something like that, and you're invited to a party because the kid's mom made him invite you, but you don't know anybody, and you're just terrified that everybody's going to ignore you and they're not going to talk to you.
Oh, sure.
And your mom's kind of nudging you along. Come on, it'll be fine. And your knees are wobbling like you're just terrified, right?
Right.
And that's, to a kid, that's a fate worse than death. But these guys, they're going into a possible fate of death. They could be killed or at least maimed.
Right.
And so, so that's what I like about these details. So let me ask you this about the details like that.
I'll interrupt you.
Go ahead.
The next sentence is in the same paragraph. Momentum had them all.
Yeah.
These are guys from your town. This is your brother, your cousin, your, maybe, who knows? Maybe you're the shopkeeper in town who knows your dad is there.
Yeah.
They're going. You have no choice, shoulder to shoulder. Running in battle line coming across East McPherson Ridge. You're not turning around.
No, no, you're not.
No.
But okay, so back to that feeling that you describe, and there were a couple of other things in there that I noticed too. Where do you just have a good imagination, or do you remember certain things and then apply them? Well, no, because I do. A lot of people I don't think could be that. Like, you have to be aware of your own. You have to take notes as you go through life. Yeah. This is what I do. As I've gone through life, I take notes as to what certain things feel like, or what certain sounds make me think or feel, or smells, or whatever it may be. And I don't know why, but I've always kind of just like kept them tucked back in the back of my head. And I think it's for moments like this. If I ever write something, I have to be able to put myself in the shoes of the characters I'm creating. So how did you do it?
Well, you start typing. I started writing this on an iPhone.
Really?
From the back of a hotel van, coming from an airport to hotel, or in line at Starbucks, in the passenger of a car.
Wow.
And then
I hate
finally,
on an iPhone.
When I started on a laptop, it became more. The thoughts became more organized.
Yeah.
But you've got to put yourself in there, and that's what I'm trying to do for the reader. It's like you're there, and the book starts out. I don't know if you read the very beginning, but it starts out in the woods late at night.
Yes.
At 10:30 at night, and one of the characters, I won't say who, won't give details. He's wounded. He's delirious, and I want the reader to just jump into the story and feel like they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all read great nonfiction books, biographies of Robert E. Lee or General Meade, the one that Kent Masterson Brown just came out or whatever. And those are wonderful books, and we have to have those for a foundation for history, especially for, if you're going to be a novelist and tell stories, you better get your facts right. You don't want to just start throwing scenarios that aren't there. But with me, nonfiction, after 4, 5, 6 pages, I'm grabbing coffee or Coke or my eyes are wandering off. So, but with fiction, I'm able to stay with it when I'm reading, like whether it's, Shara, Michael or Jeff or Alex Racino wrote a great book a couple years ago on Antietam called 6 Days of September. And I think I read that in about 2 or 3 days. It was wonderful. And, but anyway, with you just got to stay with it. And when you're writing, it's the same way. You put yourself in the story. Whatever you have to do, I find if you get up at 3 in the morning, you go make coffee, take a shower, you come out and get your coffee. I go down to the basement, get on the laptop, and I start typing away.
Yeah.
And I just lose myself in it. Next thing you know, it's 11 in the morning, and wife and dog want to go for a walk, and I'm still typing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned history.
Yeah.
And I think when you were on our live show on Friday, I think I said something like, that good historical fiction makes you forget that it's fiction.
Right.
And you have to have a very lush bed of historical facts and detail in there to make you believe the rest of the story. So how much, you mentioned before that you went into service records and things, like how much research did you, how long did it take you to write the book?
It's about 6 years.
6 years.
By the time it rewritten a lot of it, re-edited it, and get it right. But writing it, if I want to write this book, I could probably do it in a year and a half, I'll bet, maybe less. But it took me 5.5, 6 years or so total.
But do you start with the characters and the story in your head, and then you just kind of write that out for the fun of it, and then put in historical details that you think you remember, and then go back and fill in the history? What's your process on that? Well,
you make the real history, the outline, the background, the setting, the environment, the time. You make your timeline based on, for example, the 19th Indiana with the First Corps in the Gettysburg campaign. They cross Edwards Ferry at about noon on June 25th, 1863. So that's kind of a starting point for that part of it. Or, the time that they come across East McPherson's woods to attack the Alabamians and Tennesseans, in the Herbst fields there. So you have to create an outline of time frame, place to get that right before you can start telling the story of these individual soldiers. And if you want to start making up dialogue between these soldiers and then the squad, you get the place and time right first, and the events.
Right, okay.
Like at one time, I don't want to give away a big secret here, but everybody knows this probably, but General Meredith goes down. He's shot, and his horse is shot, and he gets, I think, a shell fragment in his head, and the horse lands on top of him. Well, do you want that to be in the main story with your squad of guys? Only if it's realistic to do so.
Right. You're not going to crowbar it in there.
Right. I'm not going to all of a sudden, the battle. Now he's General Meredith's in the middle of the battle line when this happens. No, you can't do that. Right. If you want to tell that story, either a character separates from the rest of the line for some reason, or he's fallen back to the rear wounded or something.
Or like if the unit is moving past where he was when it happened, and they glance over and see it as they're okay. Right. So it has to be believable, or not believable, but it has to be factual. Right. Like they wouldn't be witnessing Reynolds being killed, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. They absolutely would not.
Near where he was.
They absolutely would not. As a matter of fact, Reynolds being killed's in the book. But it's Colonel Williams riding up to the rest of the regiment from somewhere else along Willoughby Run Creek. They're capturing prisoners in Archer's Brigade. They're breaking muskets over rocks. And they're reforming they switched the 24th Michigan and 19th Indiana their positions left and right. And they put the 19th on the far left. Anyway, they're in the middle of all this, and Williams comes up, and he tells them, by the way, Reynolds is dead. And they kind of look at each other. And that's how they learn that. That's how the reader learns that too. Right. You can't leave that out of the book about the Iron Brigade. For you to create a scene of Reynolds' death would not make sense in this particular book. Because it's unlikely the 19th Indiana would have seen that,
Right.
because that was just inside the tree line.
So that
the
means,
19th
yeah.
still back behind, and they're in the swale still coming up.
You would have to leave your main characters and what they're
Right.
going through just to show that just to show that scene.
Right. Or add a squad of guys in the second Wisconsin.
Yeah, right, right.
And then have another,
Right.
and have another subplot.
So, okay. So,
By the way,
go ahead.
by the way, this says the Iron Brigade at Gettysburg. This is about soldiers in the 19th Indiana of the Iron Brigade in Gettysburg, or at Gettysburg in the Gettysburg campaign. So if you have relatives in the 6th Wisconsin, you want to read about your relatives in the 6th Wisconsin, they're probably not going to be in this book. Maybe, because there are things that happen after the battle with my characters too. So maybe they would come in then. But this is mainly about the 19th Indiana squad of guys. But if you're in the Iron Brigade, they're traveling the same, basically the same schedule to the battle and everything too.
The battle scene now. Chapter 10 is the early morning fight when they pull into the action there.
Right.
And I have to say, well, first of all, the way you describe everything, if, like I said to you before, if this is ever made into a TV show or a movie, like you've done half the job for the screenwriter, because it's very descriptive, but it's in a cinematic way.
Right.
That it's descriptive.
And you want, and early authors or beginning authors, I think the problem they have from things I've learned is too many adjectives, too many adverbs. You don't want to do that.
Right.
You don't want to just go nuts describing a scene. You kind of want to be a little more strategic on how you draw that scene with your characters, coming forward. And
The reader's mind will fill in a lot of that
Right.
stuff anyway.
Right. To paint the picture, you don't paint every tiny little detail.
No.
You let them do it.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I had a wonderful writing coach along the way. Her name was Teresa. She was a super during this. I had several friends that read this. I'd write a chapter. I'd be so proud of it. Send it off to people, and I'd get feedback back.
Yeah.
I wasn't so proud of my work that no one's going to read this, until it's out. I wanted the book to be right, first of all, and I threw my ego aside. I said, hey, everybody read this and let me know what you think. Be honest. And people were. If I made mistakes, or this was too long. You've got this character running through town at night, trying to escape and get back to his line. That thing lasts forever.
Yeah.
And you can only have so many whistling bullets coming behind his head. You can't do that. So you got to be careful on overdoing things.
Sure.
You can't repeat things. You can't go crazy on adjectives, adverbs. But yeah, Teresa was.
But that, to me, that's a sign of someone who's doing what they're meant to do, is when you can put your ego aside,
right,
and take it and understand that this stuff is constructive criticism, and it's going to, if I follow it, and you don't have to always follow it, but if you do, it's going to make your project even better. Right. I when I started, before I started doing this, I maybe would ask someone for, advice, and then they would say something and I'd get defensive and everything like that. But now I welcome it. Like I need it.
Right.
Because you can't see the forest for the trees when you're in these things sometimes.
That's right.
And so you got to have that help. And the other thing, so I do that when I write the narrative episodes. I have like a team of people that help me in different aspects of it.
Which are very good, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I love those.
Thank you. The first two I basically wrote on my own, but now with the third one I have some. I had researchers, but I'm talking with someone who's more of a creative writer.
And now you're up to July 1st.
And I'm up to July 1st.
Okay.
I've stagnated at Hers Ridge. I haven't the cavalry hasn't gotten past there yet. But anyway, my point is that it helps to have these people helping. Besides the writing coach, and then we're going to get back to the battle scene.
Right.
Don't forget that I didn't get to my question yet. So besides the writing coach, who else did you get to help you with this? Because this is a lot of history and historic detail for someone to just find. You know.
Well, I think the first person you got to thank when you look at a book is Mark Maritato. He's a professional historical painter.
He did the cover.
Yeah, he did the cover, and he did the Iron Brigade soldier on the back, which I think is just super if you look at that guy on the back. And the guys on the front, the expressions, and we went through a lot of pains and troubles to get this battle line in the correct place.
Now, you pointed out to me when we had lunch, and I don't know if it'll show up on the camera here. But let's see. That is him in
That's
the
me.
background there.
Yeah, I'm wiping my tears and turning the other way.
He's the guy
Dead
running
center.
and
If you look at the
hiding.
dead center of the book, I'm there.
Just to the left of the American flag.
Yeah.
He's in the smoke in the background, running away, drying the tears from
So
his eyes.
I have to stick with that now. That's me now. Running the other way, crying, wiping my face.
Yeah, well, I paint and I'm always envious of people that can do paint people, because I would love to paint battle scenes, but
Yeah.
I can't do this
So
to save my life.
I had a ridiculous idea first that I would paint this myself. So now it looks like Play-Doh guys and potato head with Union Iron Brigade uniforms on. It's ridiculous, and I think it went to the fire pit.
Mine looks like if you got a 5-year-old drunk and gave him a paintbrush and some paints, that's the way my people look. They look kind of like aliens.
So then I called Mark, and I think he knocked it out of the park. These the characters in the front there's 3 guys. Those are 3 of my main characters from the squad, and the guy on the right. I tease Mark. It looks a touch like Abraham Lincoln, but it's not Abraham Lincoln, unlike the cyclorama painting that has Abe in it. But these were Company B skirmishers returning to the line. Before the afternoon attack happened, 2:45-ish, when Pettigrew's brigade attacks the Iron Brigade, the Company B skirmishers were retreating back to the line, and this is them returning to the line as the firefights already begun, and there's volleys being exchanged between the North Carolinians and the Indiana guys. Of course, you have the national flag and the blue regimental flag there. But yeah, thanks to Mark Maritato for the cover, and inside the book. The maps are incredible. There's 5 maps drawn in here by John Heiser, the National Park historian. He
recently retired.
Just retired, and this was he was doing this on his time off in the evenings and things like that.
So I would
during
say
his last few weeks.
I would argue that the maps would be reliable then if he did them.
Yeah, and he was the cartographer for Gettysburg Magazine forever. A lot of other books.
Oh, I didn't know that he was a cartographer.
Yeah, if you look at all the early Gettysburg magazines, probably the first 25 or 30 magazines, all the ones in the 90s, those were John Heiser's maps.
Oh.
I think Phil Lano did them for a long time, and I think maybe Hal Jesperson's doing them now. But John Heiser was gracious enough to do the maps for me. He knocked them out of the park. There's the campaign map on page 14. It's beautiful. After the first chapter, we're talking about this character out in the woods wounded, and then we've got the campaign map, and then we start with the campaign down in Virginia 2 weeks prior. So you can kind of follow along with the Iron Brigade as they march up into Maryland and Pennsylvania. So so shout out to John. Thank you, John, for the maps. These are wonderful.
So so you have historians helping you out here. There were a couple of other ones though that you.
Yeah. So I had others too. I had my friend Al Condit. He was helpful through all this, and he and I would walk through the woods and Herbst Woods. We'd come across these McPherson Ridge, and over on the Iron Brigade ends up on Culp's Hill, between Culp's Hill and Stevens Knoll there. From the end of July 1st up till July 5th. And I'd say, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And so Al was incredibly helpful, and I could run anything past him, and he's going to give me an honest answer. So Al and Phil Spogey, who's a 19th Indiana expert and an Iron Brigade expert, and, his friends are, I think they probably conversed over this too. And, so Phil was super. And he's also, with Phil, I have a scene. I hate to give this away, but this isn't too bad to give away, I guess. It's in a house on Middle Street in Gettysburg, and there's a boy in this house. I think he's 11, or he's a 9-year-old boy. He's a 9-year-old boy in a house in Middle Street, and let's just say somebody's in that house with this boy. Let's just leave it at that. And the boy is loading the gun. It's an old Colt Dragoon revolver that he's loading for somebody. Let's just say somebody in a house on Middle Street in the kitchen. And Phil is a gun expert. He was president of the North-South Skirmish Association.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's got a huge collection of guns. So yeah, he was super about everything with guns, Civil War arms and all that stuff. So yeah, he was helpful for writing those kind of
little details. And, yeah,
right. Because you can only you can go shoot a musket in 1853 Enfield or 1861 Springfield, whatever it is. You still need somebody that's a super expert, and Phil was the guy for gun expert. Yeah, so thank you, Phil.
Now, if there are any people in the audience who are creative writers who might want to try something like this, tell us the story of the train tracks. And I love this story because this is something that happens when you creatively write.
Right.
you get going with an idea and you just think, oh man, this is a good idea, like the drama of this or whatever it may be, and you write it and then you're all proud of it and you show it to your buddy and you're like, here, what do you think of this? And he goes, what?
He says, Mike, the train didn't go there.
So tell this. What's the scene, and tell him what you had to do.
So around June, let's see, I think it's about June 19th. I'd have to cheat and look at a map to know exactly. But about June 19th or so, I've got my characters in Herndon Station, Virginia. That's where the First Corps was at. And they were stationed just south of there, and it was a rainy day. And I think it was June 19th. It might have been 18th. But anyway, it's raining. And two companies from the 19th century go up to Herndon, and in my story, this fictional story, what this company did that day, or these two companies, or my squad of guys did, they go up to Herndon Station, and there's a train on the tracks, steaming, whistling, waiting, and there's flat cars full of crates and boxes and a couple boxcars, and they're unloading these boxcars. There's also some cavalry guys that come in from the battle over Aldie, which took place the day before, and they're conversing with these cavalry guys. Anyway, this train's in the background just hissing, and it's just a wonderful scene. It's painted a picture. It's going to be the best movie scene ever. I send a chapter off to Phil Spogey. Phil says, Mike, I don't think that train's there. They cut up the tracks before that. So, no, they didn't. Of course they didn't. So I do all this research. Sure enough, I think it was Mosby's Rangers that cut up the tracks over. They destroyed a bridge on the I guess it's the Alexandria, Loudon, New Hampshire Railroad that goes out to Leesburg and goes through Herndon along the way, Herndon Station, Guilford Station, anyway. But no train would go there in June of 1863.
So he...
and I even called the Herndon Historical Society, and, it's like, I just fought it, It's like, no, Phil's right. There was no train. So.
Well, you'll be happy to know that there is a train there now. A Metro Rail.
Oh, yeah. There is. Yeah, and a bike path, I think.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, the scene's still there. It's just they're loading wagons.
Yeah. All right, okay. So the scene's the same, but you just had to change the vehicle.
I changed the
There's
vehicle.
no train.
There's wagons. Yeah.
But now, did you have any other moments like that writing this, or is that the only one?
That was the big one that cost me
one.
Months of rewriting a chapter, but I did it and got it done. But it's fine. It's kind of humorous.
Do you get discouraged when you get to that point where you have to go back and rewrite something that you got so worked up and excited about, and then now you have to go back and make it right?
Yeah, you press on.
Yeah,
you press on. If you table it and go to another chapter,
you'll never do it.
Yeah.
You
table it and go to another chapter and come back to it, but you go back to it.
Right.
You make it right.
You got to go where the creative energy takes you. So if you got to keep going forward, then go forward. And
there's some things in the book you want to be in there so bad, and they can't. You want it to. And Phil, and I think I put him in the acknowledgments at the end, and Phil keep me from letting the 19th Indian guys stray too far from the truth. Kind of kept me in line.
Good.
And it was good to have him like that, because now I think if you have true historians, whether they're licensed battlefield guides, rangers, college professors teaching history or whatever, and they know a lot about this, I think it's right. So
sure.
That's the important thing, because I want those people on my side. I want them, those kind of reviews, recommendations. If they read it, like it, and say, hey, it's historically accurate, that means a lot to me.
Well, and I think for the reader, I know speaking for myself, and I'm sure other people think this way, that, hearing that story about the trains makes me trust everything else that I'm going to read in this book. Right. And I mean, you're a human being, they're human beings. Could something have fallen through the cracks? Yes. But is it enough to say this book sucks? No. Right. It's the small stuff. But knowing that they called you on that, and then you went back and fixed it instead of just going, no, I really love my idea.
Right. I'm just going to put a bad book out. No. The book was more important than my ego.
The integrity of the book was more important to you. And that's
I would
good.
rather have not told the story about the wagons and the train. But I think it does show, hey, I cared about the research.
Sure.
And hopefully I got it right,
What was another one? Give me another one that you remember. A mistake, a little, mistake.
Well, I did send off like a 2-page little chapter to a friend of mine that took place in the Harmon farm, which
Okay.
they didn't go to, and it had General Lee in there and stuff. But that was just a humorous thing between he and I that he promised he would never share with anybody. But that was just for fun.
Well, we have it right here, so let's read it.
General Lee walks down the stairs, and anyway, no, that's not in there.
No, but besides joke chapters, were there?
There's no joke chapters in the book, man. Just
No, that was just between you and your friend.
right.
Yeah,
right.
but no other mistakes that come to mind at the moment.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. I mean,
It's not
it
a
went
big
through
deal.
a lot of editing processes. I don't think so, but I hope not. Like I said, that diary will show up 5 years from now, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
That proves something wrong with the squad. But
So now you're basing this on real people for the most part who existed, your main characters. This is a two-part question. What contemporary anything could you find on them that gives you an idea of who these guys were?
Right.
And then how did you color in the lines with their characters?
well, there was one thing I did find. Well, I don't want to throw a organization or anything under the bus, but I did find an error in some of the historical record, and I talked to him about it. But that's dismissed. But anyway, of course, you go to Fold3 and Ancestry.com. You find family trees.
Right.
You go to find a grave. You pull pension records, service records, that kind of thing. I read all the other, like I said, all the other 19th Indiana and Iron Brigade books I could get a hold of. Lance Hertigan wrote several on the Iron Brigade. Just a couple of years ago, he wrote, I think it's Iron Brigade and some History and Memory or something like that.
Yes, something like that.
It's got a beautiful cover.
Yeah.
It's white with black. It's got a couple Iron Brigade soldiers on there. One's like ghosted out, and the other one's, bright and clear. Alan Gaff wrote a great book on I think Company B, actually, of the 19th Indiana, all nonfiction. I'm just thinking in my head, Craig Dunn wrote, a really good book. Alan Nolan, who was from Indianapolis also, or in Indiana too. He wrote several Iron Brigade books. The book called The Iron Brigade. I don't know what year he wrote that, but it's an older book, probably 1970s, I would guess, maybe early 80s. So yeah, I went through those, and I used a lot of those. Are called second source.
Right.
Secondary sources, of course, people that, primary sources are people that were there
That
and wrote
wrote it,
about it.
yeah.
And then the secondary sources wrote about it in their newer books, and you can use those too. And but there's diaries. Roby William Moore, I think his name was, had written a lot of diaries. Lieutenant Colonel Dudley had written. He actually wrote the official report of the 19th Indiana. It's not in the ORs, but he had sent a letter back. He sent several letters, went back to the governor of Indiana, Governor Morton. Samuel Williams, I think that's the lost orders or lost official record or something, he sent back to the governor of Indiana in August of 1863. And I think that's in Gettysburg Magazine #1, I believe. I'm not sure who wrote that article, but I think it's in there. So, yeah, you just gather all these sources and you make sure you're right. You end up with a big file of information.
So, and then you just look to see if there's any kind of details about these particular men that
Right.
you can then extrapolate and make a full character out of.
I mean, I could keep going with this. Henry Marsh. He was the assistant surgeon, and he was an assistant surgeon in hospital aid, I guess you'd call him.
Okay.
He wrote diaries too, and his were valuable. And a lot of this is down at the archives underneath at the visitor center in the Gettysburg Museum. And John Heiser provided a lot of those for me to go through, and was able to copy those, take those home, and use those.
Can you even get in there now? Do you know?
Not right now.
No.
Oh, you can't go down there now?
No.
I didn't know that.
Not yet.
I don't think they have anybody to run it like
Yeah, that
John.
was John's job.
That was John's job.
That was
yeah.
John's job for a long time, and he
Yeah,
retired.
I think
guess
he,
it was about
No,
March or
they've-
April last year.
They still
Yeah.
got it closed for COVID restrictions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can get the Rona from reading.
There's no restrictions anywhere else.
I'm
that's-
not going there on that.
No. That's as far as I'm going. No. Okay. So when you write the characters, though, when you get into, who they are, do you base them on people you know, or do you base them on you put a little bit of yourself into them?
Kind of do. I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit of me in all these characters, of course, since I wrote it. But you take someone like General Meredith or Colonel Williams, you've kind of got to be a little bit cautious on
Sure.
that, because if they're involved in dialogue, you kind of want to make sure that's historically correct. Or,
Right.
but guys in the squad at the private level, those are mainly, figments of my imagination. If they're, even if they're real people, you don't know the dialogue they said. You don't know what they did. You're just trying to make the reader feel like, hey, you're there.
So
you're another Civil War soldier fighting with these guys.
Do you have to remember what it was like to be and think like a 21-year-old?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think of the things, I did growing up.
Or do you
as a
still
kid.
think like it's...
Sometimes I think I'm going backwards now. I think, yeah.
You're at that point where you're starting to regress.
There's the point where, I'm going back down. We've all seen the growth chart of the man, the big hyperbolic chart, or whatever that is, right? So,
you're going back to
it's
infancy.
Like a Benjamin Button scenario. Sure. I'm back down to 21, sure.
No, but I mean, you have to be able to do that, right? I mean, a 21-year-old wouldn't talk or think or act like a 47-year-old.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. And, you think about, if you played in the woods when you were a kid or whatever, you're going to use those experiences, or if you hunt or fish or, that kind of thing. Like I used to always play in the creek in Fall Creek in Pendleton, Indiana when I was a kid,
Yeah.
So there's a scene that I'm proud of at the end of the book. It takes place in Willoughby Run Creek. Well, to me, that was Fall Creek and back in Indiana.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's in chapter 10, during the battle scene there's a moment where I forget who it was. I want to say it's Hawk, but I don't know who it is. Runs a guy through with a bayonet. You remember this? Down at the creek. He clubs him in the face with his musket first. And then
during the fight.
Yeah,
during the fight. It was I think it was an Alabamian, the guy from the 13th Alabama.
From oh no, that was the prisoner. I don't remember where he was from in Alabama.
Right.
The prisoner was from Selma.
Oh, he was a lieutenant. Lieutenant Pond, I believe it was. Yeah, from Selma, Alabama. Real person.
But when he runs him through with the bayonet, the way you describe it, I picture it's a movie. Like you describe it cinematically, the way he just like pulls it out of him without really batting an eye. And
yeah, he was pretty. Hawk is a interesting past, and at that point in the book, you don't really know why is Hawk like this. Something's happened with Hawk. And every once in a while, there's he'll come across someone that's mistreated him or mistreated the squad or done something disrespectful, and he kind of goes off a little bit, And I think that was one of those scenes. I think there was a guy behind him over Hawk's right shoulder as they're coming across the fields there to get shot. And I think he's kind of taking it out on this guy. I mean, he's not just pummeling 52 times with a club or a bayonet, but the guy was still fighting back. It's
right.
Like it's Hawk or the other guy. So, Hawk bayonets the guy.
Is Hawk the one who, when I think Henry is feeling bad because he actually killed, I think he said 2 people, maybe it was just 1, but he was lamenting that because he's a Quaker. And he's like, I'm not even supposed to be fighting this. Is that Henry?
Yeah, that's Henry. Henry's a Quaker, and he's feeling bad. He's sitting on the rocks, and there's a scene, I think it's probably the last.
Towards the end of the chapter.
Yeah, they're sitting on the rocks, and they're breaking up those muskets, and Henry at some point, he's got his head down. He's got his diary out, and
he's writing in his diary.
Hawk's giving him a hard time.
But now, is Hawk the one, though, who's saying when he's lamenting that he's killed these men, and he's saying, they have mothers just like we do, and all this stuff.
Yeah, they're boys like us.
They're boys like us.
I killed 2 guys today. They're this people.
And
like
Hawk
us.
says they're just Rebs.
They're just Rebs.
Hawk's that guy.
Rebs. He hates
Rebs.
Yeah, he hates Rebs.
Do we find out why later in the book?
Yeah, you do.
Good.
He hates Rebs.
Good.
There's a story that takes place, and it all comes out.
Good.
It all comes out. You keep going in the book, and you'll see. Oh, wow. Matter of fact, there's another time when they're back behind the barricade in front of Seminary Ridge, and I'm not giving away anything here. I think Hawk's looking out across the barricade where the Iron Brigade and the First Corps makes their final stand. Mm-hmm. They have Biddle's guys on the left, and here comes Perrin, South Carolinians. They're coming across They come out of the woods and across East McPherson Ridge, and now they're coming down the swale, and Hawk's looking out, and he's just staring. And the guy next to him's, all of a sudden Hawk starts quoting a Bible verse, and a sight of Hawk that they didn't know existed coming out, and he's looking at a house burning across the fields on the other side there, and it's the Harmon. I think it's the Harmon Farm. The barn, I believe, is burning. It might have been the house. I forget which it is. But that really, really upsets Hawk, and that kind of throws a clue to the reader what might be going on here.
Okay.
In Hawk's mind.
And we don't want to get into that because we want the reader to read.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We'll keep that a secret.
Maybe even edit that out right there.
All right, so give us just give the reader an idea without going too deeply into it. Just what is the historical background of the story? So is it just the Battle of Gettysburg? I mean, we start it's 10:30 at night on the first day, right?
Yeah, and then we go back 2 weeks prior down to where is that they're at? Maybe it is Herndon. I think they go back to Herndon. They just march. They march like 20 miles or something up from Centerville to Herndon. That's on the map in there. And so the squad's getting up in the morning. They're in their tents
near Herndon, chapter 2.
Yeah, and I think it's 2 weeks prior, and kind of pick up the story of those guys and the squad. And there's one character that's not there. It becomes painfully obvious in the next chapter who that is. So the whole squad's not together in the beginning of the book. Of course, the first chapter is on its own. You know, that's after the first day of battle. Someone's wounded. But the second chapter is the squad minus one guy, and one of the squad members is kind of lamenting about this other squad member, why he's not there. He's kind of upset. You know, he's wondering if he's coming back.
Yeah.
And because he had been wounded during the Chancellorsville campaign at Fitzhugh Crossing. He'd been shot in the foot. And so he's convalescing that wound, one of the squad members is. There's also a scene in Alexandria, Virginia with this character convalescing his wound in a mansion house in downtown Alexandria, Virginia. It's kind of interesting. I wrote this chapter and I was really proud of it. And then like a couple months later, I see Mercy Street. I don't know if you saw Mercy Street.
I started it.
Yeah, it was good. It was about the nurses and stuff, and it happened to be Alexandria. And I'm watching this, and you know, I described Alexandria, and he goes down the steps, he goes down the street in the morning, he goes out to the where the train's waiting for him. It's a real train this time. It's running there, and the Potomac River's just on the other side. And he ends up taking a train to Washington City, which is Washington D.C. now, of course. And anyway, that scene. When I saw Mercy Street, like, yes, I nailed it. you know, you got the old brick buildings and wagons and the hustle and bustle going on because, you know, Alexandria was Confederate Virginia, but the Union quickly takes it, of course,
right,
and all that. But,
did you finish Mercy Street?
Yeah, I watched all 2 seasons. I even went half-price books and spent, I think, $3 on the Guide to Mercy Street book, and I thought it was pretty good.
It was good.
Yeah,
I think I got maybe like 2 or 3 episodes in.
I'd like to see a few more battle scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
There are a few where they go wandering out in the countryside in Virginia and stumble across a couple little battle scenes.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was good. You know, the whole medical aspect of it all.
I do like the medical aspect, but I sort of felt like, and I might be confusing it with something else. Was there a romance forming early on? I just don't have.
Well, I know they had a really bad doctor there that I think is a fictional character, but he was hoarding food and selling it to others. And there's some of that. I think Dorothy Dix was there, the famous nurse. And I think they even kind of alluded to Rose Greenough, the Confederate spy.
Yeah, I don't know how far. I don't know if I got
married
that
Todd
far.
Lincoln's friend or something like that. I think they kind of alluded to a fictional story like that.
I mean, it was interesting and you know, good. I'm glad to see anything Civil War related going on TV or in movies or something.
Yep.
Even though most of them are just absolutely horrible.
Except Gettysburg.
Gettysburg,
the greatest ever.
See, I wonder if I'm nostalgic. Were we talking about this the other day, Eric, where we were saying that if we hadn't watched it when we were 12 years old, or he was like 8, we probably would not like it as a movie. Was that us?
Yeah, that was us.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
No, that was definitely you.
Oh, yeah, because we were talking over on Barlow's Knoll, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at it objectively now, you go, well, it's a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
You know, they're never really that great, except for Lonesome Dove.
I guess it was supposed to be like a 10-part miniseries, like 11,
I think
12
originally it was going to be a miniseries, and then they made it into a 2-night event, you know.
So they cut out the wheat field and peach orchard and sickles, and they cut out Culp's Hill. They cut out so much of the battle, of course.
Yeah, I don't think they finished it. They shot that stuff,
yeah,
though.
No.
Because it was based on.
I mean, that was the plan. I'm not saying they cut it out, but you know, I think they're going to have a lot more to it. I
think it went through a couple of different machinations, and the reason why the beard situation sucks so bad is because they were going to do it as made for TV, and then like I don't remember how many weeks before production was supposed to start when they had everything all lined up.
Yeah.
They said, no, we're also going to do theatrical release, and we're going to shoot on film, and so now. Those beards are beards that you use on television, but not in film. There's
Okay.
a difference. And
I
so
wouldn't
that's
know.
why, we interviewed Jeb Stewart, Joseph Fuquay,
Okay, yeah.
and he was telling us, he's like, that's why my beard doesn't look like,
No,
because that was
yeah,
because it was for a different
yeah.
guy. But no, it was Tom Berenger, I guess, who
Oh,
said
that
that.
interview was great, by the way.
Yeah,
Tom,
thank you.
The Addressing Gettysburg Tom Berenger interview was out of the world. It was good.
I asked him afterwards, I said, so Tom, be honest, me or Larry King, which was the better interview? And he hung up. Well, Larry had just died. But anyway, yeah. So the beards were not made for film, and I had no idea about this before, that there's a difference between film beards and TV beards.
Right.
And I think it's because film picks up more detail, and so you can see how shitty they are. So you have to have really good quality beards.
You can get away with the cheaper ones for TV.
Yes, because it's by the time it gets onto the TV, it's so like compressed and it's lost so many generations that everything looks all nice and smooth and everything, and you can't tell.
I thought Martin Sheen did a great job as General Lee, but Robert Duvall was amazing.
Robert
In
Duvall,
Guys and Generals.
yeah. Well, originally I think he was supposed to be Lee in Gettysburg, but then and then he didn't. He had like a scheduling conflict or something.
Right.
So then they got him for the second one, which I like Martin Sheen as Lee because I think he's doing. I think he only had enough time to read The Killer Angels and not really do a lot of research on Lee.
He didn't realize how mean Lee was.
Yeah, or
He was-
well, I
Lee
mean,
was
there's
a killer. He
there's
was-
that one scene, where he's yelling at Stewart.
I have told you there is no time for that.
There's no time.
There's no time.
I didn't know that was next. I know you had that on cue too.
Oh, I got it all.
All right, good.
But
But he's a little too nice.
by the way,
with the blanket and sitting
yeah,
in a
like
rocking chair.
old granny.
No,
But in The Killer Angels, Michael Shower kind of presents him as this tired, old, sickly man.
Yeah.
And that's what Martin Sheen did.
right.
Tired, old, sickly man. Kind of always looking around, bewildered and everything like that. And I think I think he did a good job based on what he had to go off of.
Yeah. I like my General Lee a little meaner, I guess.
Yeah, I like I like him like honorable, but then mean when he needs to be mean.
Right,
Do you know what college Martin Sheen went to?
No.
Osderspen, Broderson.
And that Abu Dhabi or something.
Yeah, that's it. Albertson Broderson.
Is that the one in West Virginia? I think
That is Philippi, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Osderspen, Broderson.
Okay. Now wait, I had one more serious question. We're goofing off here. Yeah, I did. So we were talking about the storyline, the history, the historical background.
Right.
So
back to that.
so even though it starts on the battlefield on the night of the 1st, that's just to whet our appetite.
Right.
You go back and take us to go ahead.
Yeah, so if you're not a Civil War buff, you're probably not going to listen to the show, so I probably shouldn't throw this
you're not
out.
even
But
listening.
there's a lot of non-Civil War people who like this book. I've sent paragraphs. I sent chapters, the whole book to people that have nothing to do with Civil War, don't know anything about the Civil War, and they've loved it.
Right.
Because a lot of the scenes take place elsewhere. It's not just a Gettysburg campaign, squad, battle.
Right.
What happens afterwards?
You're getting to know the characters.
You're getting to know characters.
Yeah.
Whether it's a family event that takes place in another state, or it's a train ride to Washington City and what takes place at the War Department in Washington City, or it's about these people and these characters. And there's one character that what happens to him after the war is described, I think pretty vividly, and so I think it pulls people in from all genres, not just Civil War.
That's good.
But if you want to know about the Iron Brigade and Gettysburg campaign stuff, it's in there too. The history's there too.
So there's something for the whole family.
Yeah, I think
Mom can read it, Dad can read it,
Grandma,
the
grandpa,
kids,
sure.
grandpa, and everybody can get something out of
right.
it.
School teachers.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, patrons, since you are so wonderful and generous and supportive of what we do here, we want to make this into either a miniseries or a movie with me directing, and we're going to need, I don't know what we think, like $3 million, I think.
Maybe start, sure.
Sure, just start. And and then we'll say, hey, we have $3 million, and we'll go to somebody who is in the business, and they'll match it for us.
You're just throwing this out to all the audience in case there's a movie.
Well, because I haven't read the whole thing, but when we were at lunch the other day, and you would mention a part, and then force me to go and read it.
Right.
I'm just kidding. when you would mention a part and go and read it, I'm like this. I'm picturing it in my head.
Oh, that's good.
I can see it in my head.
Yeah, I remember you said this. I says, wow, I can't believe that you made this part up.
Right. It's the detail is very realistic. The interaction between the characters is very realistic. But moreover, I can visualize it, including like cuts and camera angles, and I'm like, wow, this like plays like a movie. I could see how this would look.
I appreciate that.
So this is why you need me as the director and not some old fogey. Okay.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to paint a scene for the reader, and I do think there's scenes in this that I've got in my mind that would be a movie, like whether you're sitting on that train car or you're down in some other state.
Yeah,
in a gunfight or whatever it is. If there's a gunfight, there might not be a gunfight, or a barn building, or whatever it is.
You mean you're reading this while there's a gunfight going on? Is that what you're saying? Or what are you talking about?
Well, of course, there's a gunfight here. Elsewhere too.
Several guns fighting.
But no, I think that we need a good Civil War movie.
I agree.
This would be good.
And I think that that's why it needs to come from a fresh face like myself and yourself, because we're new to the whole thing. We're, of course, fans and buffs, but Hollywood just doesn't do it right. They just don't do it right. And all these like indie films that I've seen over the last several years on Amazon Prime are just horrendous. I
agree. I look for Civil War films all the time, and I'm not finding the quality of film that you want to see.
No, you know what it reminds me of? I don't know what
we need more. Another Glory or Gettysburg, or heck, even the
better than Gettysburg.
Even the beginning of Free State of Jones was incredible.
Oh yeah,
and
what was that other one where they did the crater, Cold Mountain?
Oh yeah, the opening scenes of Cold Mountain were spectacular.
Yeah,
with the battle at Petersburg.
Yeah,
in the crater. Yeah, those were super.
Right. Why we can't do that? I don't know. I mean,
Glory. If I didn't mention that.
No, you did, and you're right. Like we need. I think I don't know who knows.
And Guys and Generals too. I'm one. I guess I love Guys and Generals. I thought it was a great movie. Obviously,
really, you're the one.
I'm the one. Some of the scenes were a little long. Well, yeah.
Even Cam's laughing at you. Some of the scenes were a little long. Yeah,
they were. Yeah.
Some of those scenes were as long as an episode of a sitcom.
Yeah.
That's like too much.
I don't need my movie.
20 minutes
Christmas
drinking lemonade
carols.
with a little girl and singing Christmas carols. Yeah.
Civil War generals doing Christmas carols.
Yeah.
Is not edit that out. Other than that's a great movie.
I don't know. Gettysburg was the better one of those two, I think. And Gods and Generals really let me down.
Right.
I was very excited, and I remember when it was coming out, my friend who was just kind of starting to get into all this stuff, we were at a bar, and I saw a trailer come on for it, and I was like, oh, man. And he's like, what's that? Duvall. He loves Robert Duvall. He's like, oh, we got to go see that if Duvall's in it. And I said, yeah. I'm like, no, but this is before Gettysburg, and all this happened, and that happened, and everything. And I was all excited. And we go there on opening night. Place is packed. The first several rows are like full of reenactors. And they come to intermission, or it gets to intermission, and we go out to take a leak, and he turns to me and he says, this movie better get fucking good. And I'm like, we're 2 hours into it. I'm like,
you're like, this is the course it's on.
Yeah. I said, I don't think it's going to get any better. Maybe Chancellorsville will be good. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
And, that was disappointing.
Civil War movies, we need higher budget, newer Civil War movies. The movie I think about all the time when I think of my book and when I'm writing, not when I was writing the story, but I think of looking back on it now, The Patriot.
Yeah.
There's some scenes in The Patriot were just incredible.
Sure.
You feel like you're there, aim small, miss small when they're, attacking the redcoats going.
Oh, yeah.
With the
so well shot. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the scenes out in that old Spanish fort.
Oh, yeah.
Spanish
in
church
the
in the swamp. Yeah. You
feel like you're in this horrible situation.
And they see their survivors coming back one at a time after they return from their homes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Mel Gibson type movie is what it calls for.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd help you. He'd be your assistant.
He would be my assistant director. Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I know I agree. Like a Braveheart or to me, it would be like Braveheart, We Were Soldiers, The Patriot, and Saving Private Ryan all wrapped into one.
And Gladiator.
And Gladiator, yeah. But now,
Let's just throw Citizen Kane into
might
the
as
mix.
well. Oh yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Well, that's
Get them all.
That's the given. You got to throw that one in there because everybody does. Do you? Is there a lot of
Are we
gore
cutting
and
out the
violence?
last 20 minutes?
No,
We're just
no.
leaving
This
on?
is
Okay.
this
All right,
is
keep
this
going.
is why people pay. Is there gore and violence in this? A lot of, I mean, obviously violence, but I mean a lot of gore.
Only what needs to add to the story.
Okay.
I'm not
Nothing
gonna.
gratuitous.
This isn't the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan where the camera just stays on the guy carrying his own arm,
Yeah.
walking around the beach trying to grab his slippery, bloody arm. I'm not doing that with this.
Okay.
I'd like to think the high school kids could read this. 8th graders, 7th graders could read this.
Oh, yeah.
Advanced kids.
Well, that's the
that
other
learn
thing too.
history.
Is it's easy reading. Like it's not you're not bogging us down with a lot of detail, which is good.
Right. I'm not trying to kill people with gore. I mean, there are
Right.
times where, there's violence. And other than just the war scenes, there's violence. You can imagine, Civil War soldiers in the 1800s. There's in camp and things. There's violence things. There's violent things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's overly gratuitous. Just, we all know it's a Civil War battle. It's just, it's the Army.
Right. It's gratuitous where it needs to be.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
if it adds to the story. There were a couple places I had to do that.
I like how also there was a detail of I think I forget the character, but there's a Confederate color bearer, and everybody's saying, get that color bearer, and
Oh, yeah.
and he gets a bead on him, and you say he aims for his chest,
Right?
fires, hits him in the shoulder, and I was like, that's good too. Now, I mean, he could have been true to the dead on to the chest, but the kid moved at the last minute. But
Right.
I'm thinking of a couple of weeks ago when Eric and I went and fired muskets, that was the first time I ever fired one live, and I swear to God, I was right at the paper target's chest, and it hit him in the shoulder.
Right.
But I mean, that's the way it goes too. It's,
Yeah, I know.
you're not always a dead shot. Like in the movies, you always, there's that big moment where he pulls up the rifle and then closes his eye and then boom, takes the shot. And
You turn around and yell, and he had the flag or something.
yeah,
Spun
and the guy goes down, and
Right.
perfect shot right
the guy
in the
next
middle
to
of
him
the.
wants him to go down, and
Yeah.
characters get mad. Take that flag down. You take that flag down, you're taking that whole line down. Yeah.
Yeah, but so little details like that. It is pretty good. I'm looking forward to when you actually get those 400 copies in, so I can have a copy and read it. And then also on our patrons. I don't know if you've noticed this, if you follow us on Facebook, we've started to do a live show that's more about Gettysburg today, but we try to keep it light and fun and entertaining. And we give away prizes of unspeakable value. And we'll get a couple of these that we'll also give away. And I think you will be glad that you get it when you do, because it's a good book. And the rest of you who don't win them, you're going to have to go and purchase your copy of the book like everybody else in the world. And you can do that at brothersofwarbook.com. You can also find it on Amazon, and you will be able to find it on our website in the recommended reading section, which is addressinggettysburg.com/books. Actually that'll just take you to an Amazon link, but that's our affiliate account. And so you'll help us out by getting your copy through there. If enough of you get them by the end of the quarter, it might add up to 57 cents. So,
Yeah, I don't think I make that much.
yeah, exactly. I don't really push the book page so much because you don't really get anything off
Yeah,
of it.
I didn't write this to make money.
No,
I just
nobody
tell
writes a book to
story.
make money.
No, I've told that
Except for
before I
Stephen
wrote the
King.
book. Yeah, right.
Yeah, John Grisham, those guys too.
Right.
John Grisham dead yet?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Still
good.
writing books.
Good for him. All right, anything you want to add to the audience?
No, it'll be available in the stores here in town by early July.
Yes.
Worked out some agreements with some of the local stores.
You know which ones?
The Heritage Center is going to have it. Gallery 30, Antique Center, Toy Soldier Store.
Good.
Carry a couple of them. I'm still working with Larry for the historian, and a couple other. I think I'm missing some there, but yeah.
Okay, good.
And we're going to.
Well, that's another thing, folks. Larry, for the historian, is a sponsor of ours. So if you wait until they come to town and get into his store, go in there and mention Addressing Gettysburg, and you'll get 20% off.
So I'm not even going to make 57 cents.
Huh? You're not going to make shit. But my audience will save.
That's good. That's good.
Well, no, you make the money first, right? He buys them from you, and then he's
Sure.
Larry doesn't make the money.
No.
You do. You do.
He's rich somehow. I'm not sure how.
Somehow.
Right.
Books, and he works hard. He's always working, that guy.
Yep.
So much so that he can't answer my emails.
You too.
I was in there the other day. I was talking to his wife, and I said, "Yeah, he never answers my emails. So next time you see him, tell him blah 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 blah." And she goes, "Oh, he never answers anybody's emails because he's." And I'm like, "I'm not. I
think
know.
you got to go in there.
I don't either.
I think you got to go in there and trap him right at 10 a.m. when he's not busy. Then just stay in there for
Yeah, no,
an
you've
hour,
got to.
an
You
hour and a
have
half,
to go
talk
in.
to him for an hour and a half. I think.
No, that's what I've learned. If you want to talk to Larry, you have to go to Larry.
Sure.
And talk to him, and then he'll talk to you for 2 hours. But the first thing he'll do is, "I saw your email. Sorry, I haven't gotten back to you." I'm like, "Larry, that was September."
Yeah.
And it's like March.
See you in the morning, Larry.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, brothersofwarbook.com, Amazon, or our website, or several stores around town, including our sponsor for the historian. Go in there, mention Addressing Gettysburg, 20% off. Mike, thank you very much. Good luck with the book.
Thank you, Matt.
Anytime you're in town, you want to come back on this show or the live show, whatever, it doesn't matter. You come on, you're always welcome. Open invitation.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. And first lieutenants, thank you for watching. And we will talk to you next time. Alrighty. We are done.
That's actually kind of fun. I love talking about my book.
There you go. And I got like 37.